Hi, Kim.
Hello.
It's so good to have you here with me
Thank
today.
you. I appreciate the invitation.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Smoky Mountains. Who are you and what do you do? Today with me is a dear friend, Kim Dudash, and we met several years ago, and I think it was Leadership Severe.
Yes.
We had a great conversation, and we became friends, and more than that, we kind of follow each other on social media to see
That's
what each
right.
other's
We've
up
become
to.
real friends, right?
Yes, we have. Yeah, we are Facebook friends.
That's right.
It's official.
It's official.
Yeah.
That's right.
So what we do, and I've noticed several things about you. Kim was involved at Dolly, which she was in HR, and then when she left, she started her own company. But she's also become a little social media superstar all herself on a side project that she has passion about as well.
Yeah.
But we're here today to talk about your company, Dudash Executive Coaching.
Yes.
So can you tell me a little bit about, one, how did you get started?
Sure.
I'm sure there were points that led you to it. And then where are you headed? What are you doing?
Sure. So I started Dudash Executive Coaching in 2019, and it really was sort of an evolution. I've been in the field of human resources and leadership for over 25 years, and with lots of different companies and lots of different industries. And, it doesn't really matter what industry you're in. What makes the difference in how profitable a company is going to be, or how whether they're going to succeed or not, is really truly their leadership. And so my passion has always been to help leaders to develop, to be the most effective leaders they can be, or to help teams of leaders become effective together. And so over time, I really felt this call to work with leaders in that way, and tried to set myself up to gain the knowledge and the skills that I would need to help leaders. And then I just wanted to be able to go out on my own and not work with one company, but to work with multiple leaders across multiple industries.
That's very gratifying.
Oh, yeah, it's satisfying. And like I said, it really doesn't matter whether it's the tourist industry, or whether it's manufacturing, or whether it's the healthcare industry or retail industry. Good leadership is really what sets companies apart. If you think about the companies that you know that are the most successful, those are the ones that have leaders that are leading them, and you just think, oh my gosh, how did they ever get to be that way? How did they do that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, each one of them has their own core values and principles, I think, and we've all worked with a variety.
Absolutely.
Along that spectrum, everything from the little harder to somebody that is the person that you would follow anywhere. You would follow them into fire.
That's right.
And that's where people should be really trying to get to, because inspiration at work, it's hard.
It is. And one of the things that I work with leaders on is helping them to identify the qualities that they bring to the workplace every day, or actually how they show up every day, whether it's at work or whether it's at home. So there are, like you said, those what I would call very creative. They're the creative competencies of leadership. So these are the behaviors that are very life-giving, and they inspire people to want to do more and be more.
Exactly.
And then you have those leadership behaviors that I would call reactive tendencies. And these are the behaviors that they may work for you in the short term, but they have long-term results that are detrimental to you as the leader, to your organization, to your team. If we think about maybe a leader that we might know who leads by command, or they demand results, and they are very aggressive in their leadership, and that may on the short term get them what they need in that moment.
Exactly.
But they have long-term detrimental effects to the leader, to those who follow. I mean, lots of turnover in businesses
and
like
that is
that.
the hardest thing. Well,
disengagement.
Exactly. When you have turnover, the cost of hiring, firing, retraining, You lose not only
Absolutely.
money is important, but you lose time. You can never get time back.
Absolutely. So, and you think of the environment that we are in right now, Rich. I mean, look at all of the folks who are leaving their companies in search of a different role because, the pandemic has really opened people's eyes to the fact that I don't have to stay in this. There are other options that I have available to me, and they're taking the chance and they are making different choices.
We wound up here when the pandemic happened. We had built this studio.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were so proud. I was putting out the word, hey, we're going to do interviews. We're going to do green screens. We can do anything in the office. The pandemic hit, and it was, what do you do now?
Exactly.
So this whole studio came down, and it went on the road. And we wound up doing, I think, 10 different episodes with Old Smoky Moonshine doing their live stream concerts. But we figured out very quickly, you have to pivot.
Absolutely.
And you need to be very creative. And the workforce today doesn't necessarily have to go in to work. There are jobs where you can work remotely, and as long as the work is done and you're doing an adequate job, leaders are going to have to face that.
And that's a lot of what I'm dealing with some of my clients now is, how do I lead in a post-pandemic world? And that's where, if you are it goes beyond a lot of my work. It goes beyond behavior, the outward behavior. It really is what drives you to do the things that you do, and how do you look at your team? Do you look at your team as an object, or do you look at at your team as individual people and players? And and making that shift, believe it or not, is more challenging for some leaders than you would expect.
When you've done something a certain way.
Absolutely.
Going back to my past life in the corporate world, there are leaders that they have a system, and they've done very well. Click, 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 click. It's the same system over and over and over. Now they're having to relearn a whole new system. So for the leaders, my heart goes out to you, but it is a great challenge. These are moments that define us.
Absolutely.
And I love those moments. Some of the best moments in life come out of the worst circumstances.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, I would say that that's exactly right. I mean, I can look back over my lifetime and things that I have been through, and I can see how it has shaped me. It really is about your mindset. It's about being able to make those shifts in mindset. And it's interesting, my progression to starting Dudash Executive Coaching. I had a passion to start the business, but I was afraid, and a lot of the things that hold us back as leader, if you go to the root of it, it's a fear of something, right?
Exactly.
So for me, it was a fear of not having security. I was a single mom, for many years. And so all of those fears. And so I just started working through, okay, so what do I need to do to plan to get there? I may never get there, but I know I'll never get there if I don't start moving, right? And so just started taking those steps. And what's interesting is all the steps that I worked through to get me to the point where I could start Dudash Executive Coaching have really led me to be a more effective coach, because a lot of the things that I worked through are very similar to the challenges that other leaders face, whether they are a senior C-suite leader who, again, is trying to learn how to lead in a post-pandemic world, or you have a leader who has been in maybe a director role that is moving up into a VP role. The behaviors and the thought processes and habits that you had in that one role may not translate well into that new role. There are things you're going to have to do differently, or look at differently, or think differently. And so it's really working with them to co-create strategies for how to make that transition.
And how they grow and prosper.
Absolutely.
Because as you do climb the corporate ladder, there are a lot of obstacles in your way. And sometimes you lose sight that you need to turn inside and see what's going on inside of you, because you're so busy deflecting and trying to climb that ladder and get to where you want to be, that you
Yes.
forget to look inside.
And the key is inside, Rich. I mean, it's, it really, I call it the inner game of leadership. It's really getting into understanding why you see things the way you see them. And, like you just said, you're climbing the ladder and you're making a lot of assumptions about things that are going on around you. So how do we get rid of those assumptions and really see reality for what it is? And it's, some leaders would say, well, I'm smart. I can do that on my own. I can get there on my own. But the reality of it is we see life through a certain lens. And we need to be able to invite other perspectives in so that we can challenge the way we look at the world. My experiences of life have resulted in me developing habits of how I show up, or, habits of how I handle situations. And when I'm stressed or I'm pressed, there are certain natural,
mechanisms.
That's
yes,
right.
Defense mechanisms.
That's right. And it's all unconscious. I mean, and this was mind-boggling to me, but we only use between 3 to 5% of our brain consciously. Everything else, if you think about that, 95 to 97% of the things we do are totally unconscious. We don't even know how we show up. It's just habit, right?
Exactly.
So what I do is I challenge leaders to make those unconscious behaviors more conscious, so that when you see yourself in that moment where you might react a certain way or respond, you take that moment and say, okay, I see myself here. I'm going to stop and I'm going to choose to respond differently than I would have in the past. So it's like working a muscle. Once you become aware of it, it
Muscle
really
memory.
is like it is. It's like working a
mental
new
memory.
muscle and creating new and more effective habits of mind. So, I think of Viktor Frankl, and he was, in the concentration camps for years, and he's a lot of people know a lot about Viktor Frankl. He's written so many books, but one of his quotes that I just absolutely love, he says that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space, you get to choose how you're going to respond. And so what I try to do with my clients, Rich, is I help them get to that place where they can see the stimulus, and they can take that moment, that space, to choose how they're going to respond. So, I've worked with leaders who say, but I get pushed here, or my team does this to me, or, or my senior leadership is so demanding. But we get to choose how we're going to respond. And so being able to take that space, recognize it, take that space and choose.
I think people quite often, when it comes to a leadership role, they get caught up in the thought that they have to be absolutely perfect.
That's right.
And there is no absolute perfect, but you're striving for that. And as a leader, your job is to inspire the people around you.
Yeah.
You have to, what is it? Many hands make light work. Well, if you haven't inspired, that work gets very heavy very quickly. So by turning inside, you've got to take that moment. And I know we've all been there where, you just want to say, and you have to take that moment and you have to calm down.
Absolutely.
And go at it objectively.
Yeah. And you have to redefine what perfect looks like.
Oh,
what is perfect? What, in that instance, what is perfect? And then, perfect could be that everyone in the organization is clicking on all cylinders and everyone's doing what they're the best at. And
that's a hypothetical
situation.
But
you know what I'm saying. But so
Yes.
it's really just taking a moment to say, okay, what is perfect? And you're right, we're never going to achieve it. So what is it that we're really looking for?
When I was coaching, I used to tell people the difference between a good team and a great team was, on a good team, there was that one person that galvanized the entire team and everybody turned on them and went, A great team does not have that person. Everybody respects each other. that's what you're striving for.
Yeah.
You can have good teams. You want a great team.
Absolutely.
And that's where the leader has to start, and they grow person by person by person and bring them along on the journey.
That is so true. And an organization will never rise above the effectiveness of the leader and the leadership team. How many teams have you worked with where each individual player is a very good leader, but they can't seem to pull together and work together as a cohesive team?
I call that the alpha pit, when you have many alphas together and they all want to lead. Recently, I was in a situation with some military gentlemen, and I was in a room with 3 very high-ranking officers, and I realized it came down to who had the highest rank, who was the alpha in that room. The 2-star general won out over the 1-star general, who won out over the colonels. I was like, and these are retired gentlemen, and they still run it that
way.
There was great dialogue.
Sure.
But when it came down to who's going to make the decision, the top leader, who's always been the top leader, said, now, gentlemen, and they were very, very meticulous, and they were very open. But when it came down to it, he was so open and very cool-headed, and pointed out all the positives and the negatives and said, I think we should go this way. And that was the end of the discussion, which was amazing to watch.
Well, and really, I mean, that's great. I mean, if they can, and like you said, open dialogue, and one person makes the decision. But I have worked on some teams where you have lots of what you call alpha leaders, and they cannot come together and make a decision. So that's another thing that I do with Dudash Executive Coaching is go in and work with those leaders, and really it's similar to a 360 for the whole leadership team. I get them to tell me how they see the organization currently working, and ideally what it should be. And then we look at that, we overlay those, and we look at those gaps, and then we start getting into, well, why do these not match? What your ideal and where we are. Do you find it comes down to
respect sometimes? Or what is the issue there?
It depends on the team, to be quite honest, Rich. I mean, what we find is when you start working with the team together and you start pointing out these things, when we start having open dialogue, it could be any number of things. I mean, sometimes it's respect, sometimes it's fear. I mean, if you are a leader that runs a ship where you're very demanding,
cracking the whip.
Yeah, well, then you're going to have members who are not going to speak up when they should, right? They're not going to feel, and you're going to have someone who wants to protect the information because they feel threatened, or you may have someone who wants to withdraw because this is not the kind of, so there's so many dynamics.
It comes down to the type of people that
it
are at the
really
table.
Does.
You can be
it
an
really
alpha
does.
and still be an introvert.
Absolutely. So each team is different, and each executive is different. So when someone asks me, what is the process for coaching? I do have some foundational things, so that we can get to the point where we can identify what's really holding the leader back. But each person is an individual. So I really have to build a relationship with that person and really tailor it to what their particular situation is. It's not a one size fits all.
No.
Yeah.
And that is the way, I think, as we're talking about post-COVID, everything has fragmented. So everything will be individual. From the team leader on down. And I think that is a good thing, because individuals tend to bring a little bit more to the game.
Well, and I think that pre-pandemic, I've thought a lot about this. We were living out of habit. We were leading out of habit. And that goes back to that unconscious, we're just going through the motions. We're just going through. And I think with the pandemic, what has happened is all of that, you can no longer, that's no longer an option. You can't go on autopilot, right? So now we're having to look at new ways. And Albert Einstein says we cannot find a solution for a problem with the same level of thinking that created it. So we have to start raising our level of consciousness if we are going to find solutions for the challenges that we face today, right? We're going to have to raise that level of consciousness. So we're going to have to start bringing we're going to have to start dispelling some of these autopilot ways of being.
Have you seen anybody come out with some very creative ways?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look around you and you can see how many people have come out of it with creative ways. I mean, pre-pandemic, how many people would be going out and doing live streaming, and to that end, you were talking about the Dudash Farms, that's what my husband and I do together.
I'm going to segue here. Saturday mornings, you tune into the Dandridge Farmers Market, and Kim has done such a great job. Most people are afraid of social media. Every Saturday morning, she picks up that phone and she goes down through with the greatest smile, and she's like, "It's so wonderful out here," and it is. It's you feel the emotion. Then she'll step up to these crafters and the farmers, and they'll discuss what product they have or what piece they have built, and there's so much great connectivity. And I think in that way you're a leader for a community, because before that,
we didn't do anything
small.
we didn't do anything like that. And honestly, that is one of the things that came out of pandemic life, though. And it really, me doing the live streams for the Dandridge Farmers Market or
led
doing
you into the Dudash Farms.
It did, doing it for Dudash Farms, but the beginning of all of that was for me to be comfortable enough to be able to do online courses and coaching for Dudash Executive Coaching. So I actually joined a private Facebook group where we challenged each other. Every day we had to go live for a month about different topics.
How long was your live session?
It was as long as you needed it to be to cover whatever it was. And so the group was international. So there were people from all over the globe in this Facebook group, and we were doing lives with each other, people I'd never met. But it helped me to really, in my instance, raise my level of consciousness and realize that there are other avenues for achieving the results. And so then I said to my husband, "Hey, let's do this for Dudash Farms."
By the way, is that it's Saturday nights, isn't it?
Sunday nights.
Sunday nights.
I was for dinner at Dudash Farms.
Kim and her husband while they're cooking.
That's right.
And I'm telling you, there are sometimes when, I have not cooked well, and I'll just sit there and look at what they're doing. I'll be working on a project or editing or something, and I'll be like, "Man, that food looks so good." And then I'm starved, and I'm like, "Well, I guess it's time to go make a hot dog and get it close now."
Warm my hot dog in the microwave.
And then you also started sending out newsletters with the recipes, which I think was a brilliant move.
Yeah. So again.
And you probably take that in with your leaders, because moments like that cross boundaries from business to personal, and there's a warmth. If you can teach somebody something and they truly feel like it has grown them, you truly are that mentor.
Yes. So yes, all of what I try to do and accomplish through Dudash Executive Coaching is to really help people understand how important it is for them to be conscious about how they're showing up every day to your spouse, to your kids, to your community, to your business. Seeing people in your organization as individuals and not as a group, right?
You have to make that choice.
You do.
And it starts the moment you get out of bed. Last week, for example, I'm in a networking group.
Yeah.
And we are very liberal. We do not have a attendance policy. It is, an honor system.
Yeah.
And I had worked till about 2 a.m, and the alarm went off at 6. And I laid there in bed and I went, I really don't want to do this. And I heard that voice going, "You could lay out." And then the other voice that I've developed over years said, "You're going to get up and make today the best day." And doors opened that I wouldn't expect.
Right.
And it's all because I got up with the right attitude.
Right.
Attitude plays so heavily into success and stumbles. I don't believe in failure. Failure is just where you've gotten knocked down and you have a moment. You're going to get back up. People look at success and failure and, "Oh, he failed." No, he didn't fail. That lesson he learned is going to come in greatly down the road, as long
Absolutely.
as you get back up.
And I think, Rich, there really are two types of people in the world. There are those with the abundance mindset, which is, I don't see this as failure. I see this as a learning opportunity, or I am going to get up today because I know I'm going to make today a great day. And then there's the scarcity mindset, where, it's basically the opposite of that, where, oh my gosh, I'm afraid to fail. I'm afraid I'm going to be found out. I'm afraid people are going to think I'm an imposter. There's only so much to go around.
Mm-hmm.
So helping people shift their mindset from one of scarcity to one of abundance
Mm-hmm.
is it's
part of the steps.
It's part of the steps.
I think
That's
where
right.
you were talking earlier, between the 2 points, there was that moment where you can choose.
Absolutely.
And I think if leaders take that moment and they say, you know what, I need to invest in myself.
Yes.
And I need to discover who I am without doing some crazy trip across the country. It doesn't take that much.
No.
It just takes a few moments and some time daily. What is it, 21 days that you build a habit?
Yeah, well, that's what they say. And I do believe if there are times when you are super stressed, pressed, and in those moments, there's this natural, like we said, our natural tendencies of how we're going to just react
Mm-hmm.
to things, and we really don't think it through. It's just the automatic responses. It's the autopilot,
Yep.
right? But if we can train ourselves to take a step back, get out of autopilot, and really see ourselves in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
we have a choice. So many people say, I don't have a choice. It just, it ticks me off and I go, you always have a choice. And that's one of the limiting beliefs that we have, is that we don't have any choices. We don't have choices about changing those autopilot responses or reactions, but we do. We do.
We've all had that moment when someone, something in business, in personal life, wherever, puts you in a box. It's your choice whether you stay in that box.
Absolutely.
And good leaders try to get people out of that box.
Yes. Have you ever read the book Leadership and Self-Deception?
I have not.
You need to read that. When you said that, so it talks about it. It actually uses that analogy of being in the box.
Does it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal book. Phenomenal.
One of my favorite leadership books was The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
Mm.
I'm sorry, but it speaks tactics. And then when you realize that there's respect,
yeah,
that leaders have to give to have that joint respect. It's a two-way street.
It is a two-way street.
Because if you don't give respect, you will never receive respect.
That's right. And it's really, there are two ways of showing up. And there is seeing in a situation with someone, you're either seeing them as an object,
Mm-hmm.
or you're seeing them as a person.
One of my other favorite management books was Theory Z by William Weechee. I had to read it when I was at UT.
Uh-huh.
It was the Japanese management principle of management.
Mm-hmm.
And the synopsis is, nobody gets to be the president of that company and run that company without pushing the broom, cleaning the floors, turning the bolts on the factory.
Understanding where they
have to work every single element of that company, so that when it comes down to making a choice, what will this choice do and how will it affect the entire growth of this company? And it's been, oh man, that's been out for a long time, but it was one of my favorite when I realized how they ran their system. They don't look at it as, this is my job and I'm going to retire one day. They look at it as, this is a lifestyle.
Yes. I mean, think about that.
Yes.
When you're there's so much, you have so much responsibility in a leadership role. It's more than you. If you look at the companies that are the most successful and people want to be a part of.
Take the Dollywood culture.
There you go.
How many people, when they come here, want to go to work for Dollywood?
Right.
Because as a person and a brand, what you see with Dolly is what you get when you work there. And you just want to be part of that.
Well, you want to be a part of an organization that truly values the contribution of their people,
exactly.
and recognizes that apart from that contribution, they're nothing. I mean, and that is the truth. You know, it's not all about the leader. It really is all about, I mean, if you're going to, your business may be successful, but it could be so much more effective, right? If your leadership style was more effective, you're going to see stronger performance, business performance.
When you invest time in people, and I hate to say they're like plants, you will see them flourish.
That's true. Think about yourself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There were people that gave me a chance, and opportunity knocks once, and you need to grab that ring and go with it. And when that door opens, you need to take the shot. And fear, you know, if you sit there and go, well, I don't know, you need to kick yourself in the tail and change your mindset and say, I need to go through this door and see what happens. And sometimes that's terrifying. It really is, because it's the unknown. And you and I were talking about that as small business owners. When we left corporate, there was a lot of, well, there's no security net. I'm out here on a high wire with no rope attached. This is me and this is it.
Yeah.
And I remember writing a blog article once, and it was about Cortez and how he motivated his men when he came to the New World. He burned his ships. He said, nobody's going home until we conquer this. And I'm sorry, that's a very harsh term, but you have to have that mindset when you are stepping out there. Don't give yourself a back door. Never.
Well, and it's, you know, one of the things that in working with leaders who struggle with that, you know, I'm working with some leaders who have a desire to be an entrepreneur, but they're afraid to take that leap because of the perceived, and I'm going to say perceived security of working for someone else. You know, there's this perception that there's security in working for an organization. I have my benefits, I get a steady paycheck. And so I challenge that perception because, and I did before the pandemic, but the pandemic just really put an exclamation point on that challenge to say, is it really secure?
Nothing's secure.
It's not. So you're right. It's helping people work through, but to understand the underlying motivations for why they are afraid of the things they're afraid of.
Exactly.
I mean, it really goes
very
deep. And like
it's
I said,
go to their core.
And that is the inner game of leadership that I talk about, that I try to work with my clients is, you know, let's get down and understand those core motivations and how do we shift that.
So you're doing very much like Simon Sinek. What is your why?
That is exactly
right.
Why
are you here? Why are you doing what you do?
Yes. Why are you doing? And, you know, let's talk about these things that you see as limitations.
So are you sure you're a coach and not a therapist?
I'm not a therapist.
I'm not a therapist.
But, you know, that's funny that you would say that. I had someone say to me yesterday, I wish the insurance company covered the type of work you do because it's just as important as what doctors do. But I'm not a therapist.
Well, coaching is very, very, on a professional side, it's not medical.
No.
But coaching, everybody needs coaching.
Absolutely. I mean, I have a coach. I mean, I think everyone could benefit from having a coach to help break through some of these barriers that we face. And I think there's this stigma of, well, there must be something wrong with me if I need a coach. Absolutely not. I mean, that's just like reaching out and finding someone who can just help you make, and I mean, you're the expert in your life. It's not that I'm going to come in and tell you the things that you need to do, but I'm going to help draw it out of you. Yes. And I'm going to help challenge your beliefs. I'm going to challenge, you know, that little gremlin on the shoulder.
Part of the onion and see what's under those layers.
And because there are layers that you're not even aware of. So if we can get down into those layers where you go, aha, I didn't think about that.
Exactly.
Then we've accomplished something.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And you become a better leader.
Absolutely.
And your teams become better. Your company will grow. The people will flourish.
That's right. And your family gets stronger. I mean, when we can peel back those layers and identify things that are holding us back at work, probably 9 times out of 10, they're holding you back in your life, in other areas as well. So, you know, not only is your work performance enhanced and your leadership ability in the workplace, but your leadership ability in your home and your in your community. Absolutely. So
Very
it's
good.
very fulfilling.
So would you do us a favor and
Yes.
tell us how people can contact you?
Absolutely. So you can find me my on the web, www.dudashexecutivecoaching.com, and you can also find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, at Coach Kim Dudash, and I would love to connect with you. And I do offer folks just a complimentary coaching session.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of, I call it a chemistry meeting.
Oh, I like
I know.
that.
How about that?
Is a
I know.
nice,
That's trying to be clever there.
No, that is a nice, clever thing. It's a chemistry
It's
meeting.
a chemistry meeting. So we can, it's important when you
You must be
choose a
lighthearted.
coach
Yeah.
that you have a rapport, that you can connect. That relationship is really important. So I do invite you, if you're interested in learning more about coaching or learning more about Dudash Executive Coaching, reach out and schedule an appointment on my website, and let's just talk it through. Yeah.
Fantastic. Kind of like we did today.
Kind of like we did today.
Very
Yeah.
conversational fun. So I would like to thank you for watching again. And if you enjoyed these programs, remember to like and subscribe to our channel, and there will be more. We are committed to bringing you great leadership and great messages from our community leaders, business folks, nonprofits. Next week, we've got some folks coming in that are heavy into the nonprofit side, and they're going to talk to us about events. So
Awesome.
I want to thank you so much again.
Oh, thank
Appreciate
you, Rich. I appreciate you too.
Great seeing you. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.